Alright guys, hopefully by now you've seen my top 10 worst movies of 2015. So here's the opposite, here's the reverse. These are the top 10 best movies of 2015. These were my favorite movies to come out in 2015. There were a lot of really good movies come out this year. Like, this could easily be a top 15 list. But since top 10 is what I've been doing the past few years, we'll just stick to top 10. And as usual, my disclaimer is these are my personal picks for top 10 best movies of the year. You won't agree with all these picks, so leave your picks for best movies of the year in the comments down below. And I didn't see all the great movies to come out this year. I know a lot of people loved Mad Max Fury Road. I know a lot of people loved Ex Machina. I didn't see those, so they won't be on this list, sorry. But out of the movies that I did see this year, here are my top 10 favorites, starting with number 10. Number 10 is Avengers Age of Ultron, and this is a movie that I figured if I could really help myself, I can get Avengers Age of Ultron onto the list. This movie, it had a lot of great action, it continued building the characters, and this movie is really impressive when you consider that Joss Whedon, the director, he concluded Phase 2, he set up Phase 3, and he still made one great coherent movie with an awesome villain, and he kept all the characters fresh and fun and cracking jokes, and that was awesome. Moving on at number 9, we have Room. Room was a really small, really independent movie starring Brie Larson and Jacob Tremblay, and this movie you're going to hear a lot about come Oscar season. In fact, it's currently my frontrunner to win Best Picture if it was up to me. This movie is such a personal story, such a close and intimate story about this woman and her son who are trapped in a room, just this small room. And from there you kind of learn more about what Room is and what Room means to this kid, because what the movie does so brilliantly is it tells the story through the eyes of this kid, Jack. This movie takes you through life like from the eyes of a child, and it is insane. It does like what Boyhood wanted to do, but didn't exactly succeed in. This movie shows you how children think, it shows you how children act, and it does it so effectively, and it's such an emotional story, and I can't recommend you guys see it, and if you're going to hear a lot about this movie come Oscar season. At number 8, we have Creed. Creed is a movie that easily could have just parodied, like, the first Rocky movie or paid too much homage to that, but Creed's a movie that stands on its own. Creed was an emotional movie, it was an action-packed movie. It was a movie that I got to see early, and I spent the 2 weeks after I saw it telling all my friends, you gotta check out Creed when it comes out, and all my friends did, and all my friends loved Creed. It told this emotional journey of this guy who just wants to make a name for himself, but not rely on the name of his father. He has great interactions with Rocky Balboa from the original set of movies. Sylvester Stallone, I think he should be nominated for an Oscar for this movie. He's absolutely phenomenal. All the cast and all the crew are great in Creed, and this is a movie that you guys should definitely check out if you haven't already. At number 7, we have another movie that you guys may not have seen going along with Room, and that is called Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. Me and Earl and the Dying Girl is this type of like fun, fresh summer movie that not a ton of people saw. Me and Earl and the Dying Girl focuses on this guy, Greg, and his relationship with this girl, Rachel, who's been diagnosed with cancer. And easily you think, oh, it's going to be like Fault in Our Stars. And ironically, I did have Fault in Our Stars on my top 10 best list of last year. But this movie's a lot more of a comedy. It has a lot of, like, more fresh and funness to it. Like, there's a lot of comedy in this movie that works really well. And it has much more of a high school feel. Like, Fault in Our Stars was a lot more of a romance. This movie takes place a lot more in high school. And it's really fun to see that throughout the movie. The humor and the interactions between these characters are beautiful. And the final act will absolutely have you in tears. At number 6, dun 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 dun. Yeah, you guys hear that? If I was a better singer, Tom Cruise could sue me. At number 6, we have Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is the quintessential summer blockbuster. If from the trailers, you're like, oh, is this just going to be Furious 7, but with Tom Cruise? And the answer is no. This movie isn't just fun. It has a lot of awesome action, but it also has a lot of really cool characters. You love seeing the espionage. You love seeing Ethan Hunt, Tom Cruise's character. You love seeing the team that's kind of tracking him. And you love seeing that the compromises that both sides need to make. And I promise you, the best action sequence I've seen all year was the Opera House sequence in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. Mission Impossible Rogue Nation was the movie of the summer for me. It was the thinking man's blockbuster. I loved it a lot. It had a lot to offer in it, and I can't wait for MI6. Okay, guys, we're coming down to it. At this point, numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 all could have been number 1. At one point, I had all of these movies at number 1. So basically, if I could have a 5-way tie for all of these movies, I would. But I did put them in this order just because I had to. So anyway, at number 5, we have Inside Out. Inside Out was this smart and inventive animated movie that made adults feel a lot. It made kids think about how their brains work. This was a smart movie overall, and it's a movie that put Pixar back on the map. They had Cars 2, and they had Brave, which kind of derailed them a bit. But Inside Out is a movie that makes you feel because these emotions feel. Like, happy can feel sad, sad can feel happy, vice versa, stuff like that. This is a movie that makes you think so much. It makes you think about how your brain works. It's such a meta movie, but it's such an enjoyable movie too. You love seeing how these emotions have relevance and how interesting that is in comparison to this girl Riley, who they operate. This is a movie that I love. It's the best animated movie I've seen in several years, and it's a movie that is absolutely on my Blu-ray collection. One of the few animated movies that I own on Blu-ray. At number 4 was the second movie that I saw all year, which was Kingsman: The Secret Service. Kingsman: The Secret Service was a movie that I saw in February, and this was like my top movie of the year all the way into the fall. So this thing was like reigning supreme for like 6 or 7 months. And Kingsman was the type of fun, awesome action movie that you wanted to see in a month like February. It had this style, it had this like eye to it that it was like Quentin Tarantino directed a Bond movie. Matthew Vaughn, the guy who did direct it, was awesome in his style of directing. I love his ultra-violent flair to it. It added a lot to the movie. I can't wait to see Kingsman 2. This movie had such an eye, it had such a flair to it. This movie was absolutely what I wanted to see. It reminded me of those Alex Rider books that they tried to do a movie off of, but it did it better, and it did it with an R rating, and that made it awesome. Number 3 is Star Wars: The Force Awakens. Star Wars: The Force Awakens was my most anticipated movie of the entire year, and it completely paid off. This movie had characters old and new that you loved. It had a script that had funny dialogue. It had a script that had dramatic dialogue. It expanded the universe, but it still made everything feel contained. It didn't get too big for its own good. This movie flowed from Act 1 to Act 2 to Act 3, but not in a way that felt predictable. The directing was absolutely insane. There were so few lens flares from J.J. Abrams, which was awesome. I love the end of this movie. I love all the characters that it's set up. I can't wait to see Rogue One. I can't wait to see Episode 8. This was everything and more that I wanted to see from a revamp to the Star Wars franchise, and this is a movie that I cannot recommend you see enough. It feels absolutely awesome to have seen this movie in the theater twice. I'll probably go back and see it again, just to be a part of film history and all the box office records that it's going to set. This is a movie that I love. It's a movie that's number 3 on the list, and it's a movie that I'm so happy I can put on the list for this year because it's just that great. The End of the Tour is a movie that I saw, and I thought about it every single day after I saw it until I'm doing this review. The End of the Tour, if you guys haven't heard of it, it's this movie starring Jesse Eisenberg and Jason Segel. And Jesse Eisenberg is a journalist, and Jason Segel is a famous writer, David Foster Wallace, in the 90s. And Eisenberg is interviewing Segel, and it's just kind of, it's these two writers meeting, and it's them talking about life. The dialogue in this movie, it brings in these themes of relevance, and it brings in these themes of ambition, and it brings in these themes of rivalry, and most importantly, it brings in these themes of loneliness. James Ponsoldt, the director of this movie, directed it in such a way that every single frame of the movie has some kind of symbolic attribution to it. The End of the Tour is a movie that, like I said, I have thought about every single day since I've seen it. It's a movie that was criminally underrated. It's a movie that isn't going to get nominated for any Oscars, which is an absolute shame, but it's a movie that I loved. It's a movie that I can't stop talking about enough. It was almost my number 1 movie of the year, but it was beat out by just one other movie. Now for number 1, Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is one of these movies that rests on the shoulders of Michael Fassbender as Steve Jobs, and this guy absolutely became Steve Jobs. Michael Fassbender, I swear to God, is bringing home the Oscar for this movie as Steve Jobs because he is unbelievably incredible as Steve Jobs. He's a jerk, but you understand where he's coming from, and the movie has this directing style that feels incredibly self-contained, so it's like you're inside the mind of this guy. It feels like Birdman meets The Social Network because the directing is that spot on. It follows you through this guy's life, but not from age 19 to death. It follows you just in 3 separate parts. It follows him in 1984, it follows him in 1988, and then in 1998, and it's only in 40 minutes before the launch of a Jobs product. So it doesn't take you through his entire life, it just takes you through certain parts, and by doing that, it takes you through the different mindsets that he's in these different places, and you see how his mind does evolve over the course of it, but it's ultimately the same mind that's like, just has these ideas going through it. Going into that mind in such a unique style from Danny Boyle's direction and from Aaron Sorkin's screenplay, you get an insight into how this guy thinks, and it's really even better when you see his interactions with Kate Winslet or Catherine Waterston, and you just see how he's interacting with these people, and you understand a bit more about how this brilliant guy's mind works. And this movie is ultimately just fascinating in understanding that this guy, this jerk, was the mind who brought us everything that we use today, from Apple computers to an iPhone which I'm filming this video on right now, which is insane. Like I said, when you look at the screenplay of this movie, when you look at the directing of this movie, when you look at the powerhouse performance in this movie is absolutely a movie that demands to be seen. It didn't get seen enough in the theaters. It should be on Blu-ray in a couple weeks. I definitely recommend you guys see this. It's definitely a more complex movie, but that complexity doesn't change the fact that it's actually the best movie that I've seen all year. But those are my ramblings, so let me know in the comments below what you guys thought were the best movies of the year, and go ahead over and check out my worst movies of the year. You guys can also go to mymoviethoughts.com/2015movies to see all my reviews on all the movies that I saw this year. I saw 57 movies this year. That's a lot of movies. So as I said, be sure to comment your favorites of the year in the comments below. Check out my worst of the year video on this channel. Be sure to check out some other reviews that I've done, and I can't wait to make 2016 even better. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.